This week to be closer to China. On November 12th, at a conference of experts and entrepreneurs on China's economy, China's Premier Li Keqiang stressed the importance of supporting the real economy, especially the private sector, and in particular small and micro enterprises, as closely related to the life of the Chinese people and as an important component of China's economy. What is the developmental history of China's private sector?
中国的民营企业也逐步的由小变大，成为中国经济的重要组成部分了。
What are the difficulties the private sector face?
不仅是不能离开，更要壮大，给予更大的广阔的舞台了。
China states it will unswervingly encourage, support, and guide the development of the private sector. What are the prospects of the private sector? This week, review the path of China's private sector to be closer to China. For much of the 7 decades of the People's Republic of China, the private sector has ridden a rocky road. It's not hard to understand why. Under classical Marxism or socialism, the state would own all the means of production, which by self-evident definition leaves no room for private business. Private business was even a crime during the high years of ideological leftism. It reveals no state secret to report that with no private business, China's economy was weak and stagnant, and those were the good years. When Deng Xiaoping introduced socialism with Chinese characteristics and the socialist market economy, focus on results, not entirely on ideology, but not everyone was thrilled about it. The private sector flourished, helping to create China's economic miracle. But even in recent times, foreign reports have the state sector advancing and the private sector retreating. What is the reality? What are the contributions of the private sector today? What is its role in China's new era? We assess the private sector to be closer to China. Located in the central and eastern parts of Guizhou Province, Shebing County is home to minorities like Miao, Dong, and Yi. In April 2019, Shebing was approved to withdraw from its impoverished county designation by the Guizhou government. The former poor county is now on the path to a better life. Wang Xiaofei is the manager of New Hope Liuhe Breeding Company, a subsidiary of New Hope Liuhe Company in Shebing. The ultimate parent company, New Hope Group, a private enterprise, is the largest agribusiness enterprise in China. Wang's company has been running the pig breeding business in Shebing since July 2018. Monday morning meetings is the routine.
按照我们的例会流程，还是由这个办公室首先上来对我们整个这个做上一周这个人行线路的办公室的一些工作的一些发言
Signing an investment agreement with the Shebing County government in May 2017, Wang's company has the responsibility of both making profits and helping poverty alleviation here.
因为当初我们和县里面签订这个投资框架协议的时候，就有个约定，要尽量满足本地符合条件的用工需求。那么我们是完全履行这个用工的这个承诺。那么对当地的年轻人，愿意到新希望来发展的。所有条件符合标准和要求的，那么我们现在就给他招到公司来了。上午计划去杨柳塘镇，去拜访我们的这个党委副书记，然后呢，主要和他对接一下我们整个一期项目的附属设施，土地推进的一个情况。
The total investment was over 19 million US dollars, 135 million yuan, for the pig breeding project number 1 of Huang's company, and over 1 million US dollars, 7.6 million yuan, was funded by the local government, which was responsible for providing infrastructure, water, electricity, transportation, and land transfer. Huang's company handles the following operational work of the pig breeding project.
提了之后，现在有2个事。第一个事就是。
The pig breeding project number 1 has bred 6,000 sows. 80 people in Shebing have been employed. With project number 2 in preparation, the 2 projects will produce 500,000 piglets each year and provide over 200 local jobs.
他从前期租土、租金，还让务工，还有这个分红，都给我们带来很大的效益。而且现在他已经投入使用了之后，他也在招工。
Usually, Wang Xiaofei has lunch at the company with employees, many of whom are employed locally. Sometimes he cooks for them. They eat together like a big family. Benefits to the locals are obvious, but there are also difficulties, such as on land transfer. After lunch, Wang comes to Wengtang village, where the land transfer work for the supporting facilities of project number 1 is to be concluded, if the remaining households agree to lend their land to Wang's company.
目前已经有42户流转过来，还剩4户，还在就是今天开会正在谈这个事儿。他们一下子还理解不过来，还不太愿意。
新西方公司来这里搞这么大的规模，那么是不是赚钱？他不赚钱，那么对我们这里我们把这个土地留着给他们，有没得保障这些，他们也有利润但我们城里面呢，或者是政府我们也给群众做了大量的做思想工作。
How do the villagers feel about Huang's company?
万一他公司垮了，我们的亏了，还是担心这些。
Xu Youzhi's daughter-in-law works in Huang's company.
你反正你在农村干活的嘛，你有一个工作，有个固定收入肯定要好一些。你招工得越大嘛，那越好了，把这些群众到时多找点钱，我肯定更要生活了，是吧？
29 years old, Ma Meijin was employed by Huang's company a month ago. Before getting married, she made money in Guangdong province as a migrant worker for 5 years. After having 2 kids, Ma chose to stay at home, raising pigs for their husband on their own.
10头母猪，1头公猪，有100多头肥猪。那时候的猪价很低嘛，也不赚什么钱。刚好现在涨价的时候嘛，又有非洲猪瘟了。 所以赚不了钱了，就倒闭了。
All was lost when the African swine fever raged, leaving the family with only a debt of over 40,000 US dollars, 300,000 yuan.
他也会去新希望的，像我们每年还要还利息2万块，还要家里面的开销、生活了，都不够的，要2个人一起奋斗才会有希望嘛。
Besides land transfer, water supply was also critical for project construction. Huang Xiaofei found the town government addressing water demand. However, the water yield of the well is far from meeting the demand.
谁解决不了，那么
一再去给你们说，这个项目必须按程序走。
之前是这个施工单位和双井政府签的合同。 但现在双井政府没有这个资金，所以水务这个施工单位就干不了这个活了，他们这个就中途就撤了。现在水务局这边来找施工单位来重新招投标。
To promote the bidding, Huang needs to turn to the Shebing County Development and Reform Bureau, County Water Resources Bureau, and county government to coordinate relevant procedures and work.
干这个事要人没人，是吧？要资源没资源，这个活死是个头啊！当时就这样想，再回去想一下，这个过程虽然艰辛，但总体来说还是蛮有成就感。
Today, China's private sector contributes 50% of tax revenues, 60% of GDP, 70% of industrial upgrades and innovation, 80% of total employment, and 90% of the total number of enterprises. Private enterprises also participate in poverty alleviation. According to the All China Federation of Industry and Commerce, by the end of June 2019, more than 88,000 private enterprises have invested more than 100 million US dollars, 750 million yuan, in helping poverty alleviation in rural areas. To explore the remarkable development of China's private sector, I interview Liu Yonghao, chairman of the New Hope Group, and Chuan Zhezhu, former Executive Vice Chairman of All China Federation of Industry and Commerce from 2012 to 2017. As a successful private entrepreneur, how would you describe the private sector's contribution to China's economy?
Thanks to the past 40 years of reform and opening up, China's private businesses have grown from a tiny share to a significant part of China's economy, contributing to over half the job opportunities, tax revenue, and technological innovation, emerging as one of the most crucial drivers of China's economic growth. The attitude of the government toward private business has shifted away from giving it a try to making it a supplement to the economy. A further attitude shift is from thinking it is an important component of the economy to now giving unswerving encouragement, support, and guiding the development of the non-public sector.
Despite its achievements, China's private sector faces challenges. Arguments such as, the private sector has played its historic role in assisting the growth of the public sector and should be phased out. On November 1st, 2018, at a conference with entrepreneurs, CPC General Secretary Xi Jinping reassured China's private sector by refuting arguments doubting or denying the role of the private sector and by reiterating that China would unswervingly encourage, support, and guide the development of the private sector.
Even today, after development, discrimination still exists. That is why General Secretary Xi held the forum with private entrepreneurs on November the 1st, 2018, when he said that the private sector and private entrepreneurs are members of our big family. That plain language demonstrates how we look at private enterprises and entrepreneurs as a crucial part of and an indispensable force of the Communist Party of China and the socialist market economy. The private sector is not to die out, but instead be given a broader platform with further encouragement. The development of the private sector is determined at the primary stage of the basic economic system of the socialist market economy with Chinese characteristics.
In December 2018, at a grand gathering to celebrate the 40th anniversary of reform and opening up, 100 Chinese people from different walks of life who have made outstanding contributions to China's transformative 4 decades were awarded the special Medals of Reform Pioneers. Private entrepreneurs were certainly included. Jack Ma Yun of Alibaba for his contribution to the digital economy, Pony Ma Huatong of Tencent for his contribution to the Internet Plus, and Liu Yonghao, chairman of New Hope Group, China's largest agribusiness company. How do you feel about this honor?
I am honored to win that recognition from our country. I have been working hard, making progress, and I got recognized by the Chinese society. At the same time, as a representative of private entrepreneurs, I am delighted to see the private sector is growing into one of the significant forces in building China's economy.
Coming up next, how did Liu Yonghao earn this honor? What is the story of his New Hope Group? Liu Yonghao's New Hope Group has nearly 80,000 employees and more than 600 subsidiaries in 30 countries, covering diverse businesses, food and modern agriculture, dairy, real estate, and chemicals. However, when looking back, it might be hard to believe that such a large enterprise began as a family-scale business. When reform and opening up commenced in 1978, it catalyzed great vitality in China, beginning with rural areas. You started your business in the early 1980s, right after reform and opening up began. Could you look back and share your entrepreneurial stories?
By
1982, specialized households were rising in rural areas. The government encouraged farmers to advance economic growth by setting up rural enterprises. We applied to raise quail, pigs, and chickens in the rural area. Our request was approved, and we built our own factory in the countryside. That was our second try at private business. In less than 5 years, our factory became the largest quail farming enterprise in the whole world, with over 10 million in profits.
All startup companies, no matter how successful, have faced challenges, difficulties. Could you share some of your stories?
Back then, the Cultural Revolution was just ending, and many people still had a lingering fear. People believed that I should cherish my job as a teacher in a city and not run some irrelevant business, suggesting that rearing quail was not something that I should engage in by ignoring my proper occupation. During the process, we indeed met with numerous problems and difficulties. What should we do without funding? We sold our watches and bicycles to raise 1,000 yuan, about $150 as startup capital. We applied for a bank loan to grow bigger. However, the bank found our request odd. How could government-funded banks for state-owned enterprises grant loans to individuals? It was utterly impossible. With no other means, we could only borrow money from relatives and friends.
In those days, individually owned businesses was not a nice term. Nonetheless, starting from scratch, in 5 years' time, Liu Yonghao and his brothers made over 10 million yuan, an astonishing success at that time in China. They had larger ambitions. Right at the peak of their quail business, Liu Yonghao and his brothers entered the pig feed business, which formed the foundation for today's agribusiness powerhouse, New Hope Group.
Just as we were sailing with the favorable wind in the late 1980s and early 1990s, somehow a debate arose about capitalism versus socialism that became rampant in the news media. Some claimed that our business was on a capitalist path and should be prohibited. Against such allegations, it was particularly difficult for us to conduct business.
That was a contentious issue as to whether private sector businesses can be socialist or only capitalist. Many people looked at private enterprises with tinted glasses. They didn't believe in the private sector, nor did they support it. During the reform and opening up, Deng Xiaoping suppressed interference and remained committed to the reform and opening up. So now private entrepreneurs are practitioners, participants, and beneficiaries of the reform and opening up.
Later in 1992, the 14th CPC National Congress established the socialist market economy. Then, the third plenary session of the 14th CPC Central Committee stipulated that the non-public sector is also an important part of the socialist market economy. Private business embraced the golden opportunity. Liu Yonghao established the first private enterprise group approved by the State Administration of Industry and Commerce. You also initiated the establishment of the China Minsheng Banking Group, the first bank in China to be owned mostly by non-government enterprises. How did this come about?
In 1994, I was selected to be a member of the All-China Federation of Industry and Commerce, the ACFIC, as the first vice chairman from the private sector after the reform and opening up. Following the requirements of the ACFIC to bridge the government and private enterprises, I visited many places to learn the concerns of private entrepreneurs. Among the many concerns, foremost was the difficulty of getting loans. At the chairman's meeting of the ACFIC, I proposed to build a national commercial bank founded by private entrepreneurs under the leadership of the ACFIC. If successful, the operating practices of the market-based bank could be promoted nationwide. Finally, the state approved our proposal. China Minsheng Bank Corporation Limited, the first national bank funded by private enterprises, was established.
But private enterprises have encountered problems. Some entrepreneurs mentioned the three doors and the three mountains to General Secretary Xi. The three doors refer to the glass door, the revolving door, and the recoiling door. What do those doors suggest? They are a vivid way of talking about the accessibility issues of private enterprises to investments in all areas. The glass door is one that you can see through without access inside. As for the revolving door, you are turned out just as you get in. And the recoiling door is only half open and soon to be fully closed. Those are the three doors. About the three mountains, the first mountain is the iceberg of the market. In the beginning of the reform and opening up, whatever was produced was easily sold out and we had a shortage economy. Enterprises grew fast because of it. Today, however, the market is saturated. Stockpiling low-end products result in an iceberg of the markets. The second is the high mountain of financing. The private enterprises have always found it hard and unaffordable to finance. The third mountain is called the volcano of transformation. What does that mean? Transformation is a painful process for enterprises.
Today, the cost of all the factors of production are on the rise. However, the products we manufacture have not seen a price increase, instead a decrease due to excessive supply. That poses a tremendous challenge for the enterprises of conventional industries. The challenge lies in that profits are getting lower and export is also affected due to complicated external and internal environments. What should we do in such a situation? Transformation of the private sector enterprises is definitely the answer.
Talk a little bit about President Xi's involvement with the private sector. What type of engagements has he had?
A typical example is that private sector entities are allowed to hold a controlling interest in state-owned enterprises as a part of mixed ownership reform, which used to be unthinkable. Social capital was allowed to set up private banks under certain conditions. Furthermore, General Secretary Xi has repeatedly talked about protecting entrepreneurs' personal and property security, which is also critical. General Secretary Xi has also pledged to ease tax burdens for private enterprises by implementing a series of policies that the private business owners widely acclaimed. Those policies are seeing positive results.
Through tax reductions and exemptions, plus the government's surrender of profits, private businesses have enjoyed tangible benefits. The financial staff of our group has calculated that we may save more than $42,580,000 US per year thanks to those tax reductions and exemptions, plus the cancellation or exemption of administrative fees. The policies of our government have promoted the development of private enterprises.
In the 2019 Fortune Global 500 list, the number of companies based in China reached a record 129, exceeding for the first time the number of companies based in the U.S. Among them are world-renowned Chinese private enterprises, Huawei, Alibaba, Xiaomi, Tencent, etc. Private enterprises not only contribute substantially to China's GDP and employment, they also lead technology advancement in China, even in the world, especially in e-commerce, 5G, and AI.
Private enterprises do hold some trump cards. Huawei, Tencent, and Alibaba, for example, are adapting to the digital economy and artificial intelligence. 4 years ago, they already foresaw that the key to going forward is AI and biotechnology. So this generation of entrepreneurs must have foresight.
Some private companies have taken the lead, but quite a few of the traditional enterprises are still under pressure and seeking transformation. I hope to see more support of our government for the traditional enterprises to transform and upgrade.
How do you then see the future? What are the prospects for the private sector in China?
In 2010, only one Chinese private enterprise made the list of the worldwide Fortune 500 companies. Last year, there were 28 companies. This year, it exceeded 30 Chinese privately held businesses on the Fortune 500 list. That growth rate is pretty impressive, which also shows a robust private sector business environment. Thus, I believe the prospect for China's private businesses is quite promising.
I believe the most important thing for private enterprises is to gain the same recognition as the state-owned and foreign capital enterprises with the legal protection, financing, and resource allocation opportunities they enjoy. The private sector does not demand any favor or preferential policy, but a level playing field with open, fair, and equitable policies. In fact, the government has responded in many ways to the concerns of the private enterprises regarding the private sector being equally treated. The government proposed to unswervingly encourage, support, and guide the development of the private sector. However, it takes time to implement. In a big country with multiple levels of government authorities, different interpretations may emerge. Some say we have good overall policies, but they are often undelivered at the grassroots level. I hope local governments will fully implement policies of the central government to treat private businesses in an equitable, fair, and open manner.
Historically, the private sector and reform and opening up policies reinforced each other. Recently, President Xi Jinping's meetings with private sector leaders were high profile. That was no accident. Never before was the full text of such an event made public. It was like a bright green neon sign announcing that private entrepreneurs should feel reassured. China's leadership supports the private sector, backing it with favorable policies such as directives to banks to lend to private companies which have been starving for growth capital. Private companies are now allowed to enter more industries as the negative list grows shorter. Private companies can now own equity in state-owned enterprises, SOEs, even in some cases gaining a controlling interest, which used to be unthinkable. Yet, to be sober, we have heard promises to private businesses before, and still there is discrimination. A bank executive is still more likely to be reprimanded for a non-performing loan made to a private company than to an SOE. One must ask, what makes this round of promises different? The answer must be President Xi. He has his personal credibility at stake. While China states that it adheres to public ownership as the mainstay of its economic system, multiple forms of ownership are encouraged. How this all works for productivity and efficiency is a work in progress. That's Closer to China.